Hello everyone, welcome back. Thanks again for tuning in. This week I'm going to do a little breakdown of a concept from Pat Martino. I've been meaning to do some more Pat Martino videos for some time now, and since he just recently passed away, it seemed like a more than perfect time to bring something out. Those of you who have watched my previous Pat Martino video I had a while back called Something Cool Pat Martino Showed Me, you guys know that I actually got to hang out with him one morning for a couple of hours when I was attending GIT, Guitar Institute of Technology, now known as Musicians Institute. Let's just say some years ago, and that was the same year just prior to Pat having his brain aneurysm, and or having the surgery for it at any rate, and forgetting how to play, having amnesia, forgetting everything he knew, and having to relearn. So this was just prior to that occurrence. And I got to hang out with him, pick his brain for 2 or 3 hours one morning, and he showed me some cool stuff. One of them was those octaves that I've since learned that he called octavistics, that I did the first video on. He showed me a cool thing that morning as well that had to do with diminished chords, and how you can take a diminished chord and lower each note in the chord 1/2 step and make it a different 7th chord. And that I've since come to learn, thanks to a couple of my viewers, he referred to as a parental form. And he also had an augmented parental form that I'm going to dive into today. And I first saw this on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, right after Pat died. It's on Dave Frank's YouTube channel, and I'll have a link in the description. I'll also have a link to Pat's TrueFire.com video that's on YouTube as well that explains this. And but the Dave Frank video you might want to check out. It's like an 1.5 hour long seminar, but he goes on, after explaining this concept, he goes on to show how he uses it in composition. And that's another whole video for me, I think, but it's a pretty cool one. So anyway, all that to say, I'm going to dive right in here. If you haven't already, please subscribe. Hit that notification bell and like the video. It'll help me out a lot. Thanks, guys. So this is a very rich concept, this parental form augmented triads that Pat has. It's in his TrueFire course that's called The Nature of Guitar. And the reason he first came up with it, I think, or he explained it, is that he wanted to distinguish the guitar as an instrument from the piano. And he uses the words horizontal and vertical to delineate, whereas the piano has only a linear or a horizontal approach. You have a major scale, C major scale, all white keys, 7 notes on the white keys before you reach the octave, right? And you have 5 black keys before you reach the octaves. And that would be, C sharp, D sharp, S sharp, G sharp, A sharp, back before you get back to C sharp. So Pat spoke about how that was strictly a horizontal approach on the piano. And and a lot of people, when they first learn chords on guitar, they learn the scale first, and you have to learn like that C major scale I just played on piano. And then they learn to take the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th to make a C major chord. And then you flat your 3rd for a minor chord. But Pat came up with a way here, and I'm sure he's not the first to come up with it, but he's the first I've ever heard put it in such a concise and a brilliant package anyway. So he said, just take a 3-note cluster, an augmented triad. And of course, for those of you who don't know, an augmented chord, it's a major chord with the 5th raised, sharp 5, augmented. And of course, the diminished has the 5th flatted, so like so. So we had this augmented triad approach where you just take, like, say, the 4th fret, index finger on the 4th fret, ring finger on the 5th fret of the B string, middle finger on the 5th fret of the G string. So you have E string and the E string, B string, G string, and it's basically this cluster here. And you can take that chord, that augmented triad, and if you raise it a major third, it basically becomes an inversion of itself. You know how a diminished triad, not triad, but a diminished cluster, a chord cluster like, say for instance, it repeats itself every 3 frets or a minor third, whereas a augmented chord repeats itself every major third. So here at the 4th fret, you have a C, E, G sharp or A flat. You raise it a major third. You have E, G sharp or A flat, C on top. And you go again a major third and you have G sharp or A flat, C, and E on top. And then of course if you go down to the open, E open, then you have your 1st fret on the B and the G strings. But we're going to keep it here at the 4th fret just for to explain this concept. And so you can also, in addition to playing them horizontally this way on the guitar, you can play them on the guitar vertically, which you can't do on a piano, you know. So starting on these first 3 strings, you have a C, E, G sharp. Then if you go to the second 3 and you do this form right here, where you have index on the 5th of the B and the G string and middle on the 6th of the D string, you have G sharp, C, E. So basically what happens is you come down here with your pinky and you'll see that's an octave of that note. So it helps to know the forms of octaves on the guitar. You guys are like, so in other words, if you're skipping 2 strings, it's like a fret apart. And if you're skipping 1 string, you go up the other direction. So there you skip 2 strings and you skip 1 fret. This way you skip 1 string and you skip 2 frets. So, and that basically goes down the same there, but then if you go down, because of the nature of the G string being in a major third as opposed to a 4th, you have you skip 2 frets there. And then of course, once you get down to the A and the G string, instead of skipping 2 frets, you just skip 1 fret this way. So if you have your augmented triad here at the 4th fret, and you go down here, then you have this. The note on the E string, the G sharp, jumps to the bottom of the chord cluster. Now you have the E on top, G sharp on the bottom. Now if you go down again, you have the E on the bottom. You have the E on the bottom and the C on top. You go down one more time, you have the C on the bottom and the G sharp on top. So you get this basically. There you go. And you can play 5 strings at once and get the whole thing. And you got to jump up here for that little E string. So the cool thing about this though, so you go up a major third with that cluster right to get to the next inversion. That means you have 4 places to play until you get to the inversion of the first chord you played. So that's 4 times 3, correct? What you can do is lower each of these notes 1/2 step or fret on the guitar and you get a major chord. You raise it 1/2 step and you get a minor, that relative minor of that same major chord. So let's stick with the major first. You lower the E string, G sharp note to the 3rd fret and you get a C major, right? And back to the same chord. You lower the B string and you get an A flat or G sharp chord. Now you lower the G string 1/2 fret, 1/2 step, and you get an E major chord. So out of that one cluster there, you get 3 majors. You get C major, you get A flat or G sharp major, and you get E major. And this times 4, that's 3 strings times 4. If you do that all the way up, then you get 3 times 4 is 12. You get all 12 diatonic major chords, and as well as the all 12 diatonic minor chords. Because as I say, if you move that little E string up a 1/2 step, you get A minor, which is a relative to C major. If you move the B string up a 1/2 step, you get F minor, which is a relative minor to A flat or G sharp. Then if you move the G string up a half step, you get C sharp minor, which is a relative to E major, right? So that's 6 chords out of that one 3-note cluster there. Pretty cool, huh? So now if you go down vertically, as opposed to up horizontally, if you go down vertically to where you get that top note on the bottom, you do the same thing. You can, and of course, it inverts as you go down. So you lower your B string 1/2 step now, and there's your A flat chord. Lower it 1/2 step here. You have your G 1/2 step. You have your E chord, E major. If you lower your D string 1/2 step or 1 fret, you got C major on the bottom now. Now if you go down to the next set of 3 strings, which are the G, the D, and the A string, then you lower your G string first, and you have an E major chord. Lower your D string 1/2 fret, 1/2 step, and you have the C chord. Lower your A string, and you have the A flat or G sharp chord. Now we go down to the D, A, and the big E string, and you have lower 1/2 step on the D string, you have C major. 1/2 step on the A string, you have A flat major. 1/2 step on the big E, and you have E major. So you have this here, guys. And now we'll go down through the minor chords. So you have come up on the first 3 strings of 1/2 step. The cluster that's on E, B, and G string. Come up 1/2 step on the little E string, and you have A minor. Come up 1/2 step, like I said, and you have on the B string you have F minor, relative A flat. Then you come up 1/2 step on the G string, and you have C sharp minor, which is a relative of E major. Then the next 3 strings, B, G, and D, come up there on the B string 1/2 step for F, that inversion of F minor. Then you come up on the G string for that inversion of C sharp minor, the middle of the chord there. Then you come up on the D string and you have that A minor. Come down here, you go down a 1/2 step, you got the E, right? You come up here, you got that inversion of C sharp minor, which is the 3rd in the bass. Come down there, you got C. Come up here, you got A minor with the 5th in the bass. And then now you come up a 1/2 step on the A string, and you have that F minor, which is the relative minor to the A flat. The last 3 strings here are D, A, and E strings, guys. We went down there for the C. You come up here. Now you have A minor with the 3rd in the bass. Then you go up on the A string 1/2 step, and you have the F minor with the 5th in the bass, right? Then you come up on the big E string 1/2 step, and you have your C sharp minor. Okay? And there's a couple of more. So originally I showed you these 2, 3, 4 chords, right? Well, there's 3 more. In addition to these 4 3-note clusters, you have a way to play these using spread triads. And what you do is you take the middle note in each of these 3-note clusters, and instead of playing that A string there, I want to go up and play an octave on the next string down, which would be the G string, right? And so it works the same way. This is what we call a spread triad. So you take the G string down a 1/2 step, and you have there you have an A flat, G sharp. You take it up a 1/2 step, and you have the F minor, right? You take the D string down a 1/2 step, you have C major, take it up a half step and you have A minor. Take the E string, big E, down a half step, you have E major. Up a half step, you have C sharp minor. Now you can go down or up rather in pitch to the next 3-note cluster and do the same thing. This one's a little bit more of a spread because you have to have that 2-fret jump going up between the D and the B string there. So instead of playing the D string this time, we're going to play that note an octave up on the B string. So you have this right here. It was a, and once again, you lower that B string a half step, you get C major, right out of the G formation. So you get C major, you raise it a half step, and there's your A minor. Let's see. Lower the G string a half step. There's your E major. Raise it a half step. You have your C sharp minor with the third and the bass there, right? And you lower once again. Last but not least, you lower your A string a half step. There's your A flat. Raise it a half step, and there's your F minor. So you have one more spread triad you can do here, which is on these 3, because when you get up here, you run out of strings, you can't spread. So right here, this one, you can go up. It's not quite as much a spread as that middle one is. So instead of playing a G string, this time we're going to play that note on the C note there on the top string, on the little E string. And once again, you lower that a half step, you have your E major. Raise it a half step, you have C sharp minor. The B string you lower, whole step, you have A flat. Raise it, you have F minor. The D string you lower, you have C major. Raise it a half step and you have A minor. And now, Pat went on in this Dave Frank video to talk about how he uses this bottom spread triad specifically, the one where you have the A string replaced with a note on the G string. He used that in composition. And he goes into this composition in B flat, just kind of off the cuff, kind of making it up as he goes. I haven't memorized that entirely, but I'll probably do a video where I actually do a PDF of that. So that's it for today, guys. I just really wanted to do something to commemorate Pat. He was such a phenomenal player and educator. And once again, I'll have a couple of links in the description. And anyway, that's it for now, folks. Once again, please subscribe. Hit that like button. That'll help me out. Hit the notification bell. And I will have some materials, PDFs of chord diagrams available on chuckjonesmusic.com. Be sure to go there and avail yourself of those. It'll be the subscribe for exclusive content page, and there are a lot of other PDFs up there of past lessons. So I appreciate you tuning in. Y'all have a great day, and happy Thanksgiving as well.